How's it going, YouTube? It's your boy Nice coming at you with both a new microphone and a new deck profile today. So today I'm coming at you with Runick Buster Blader. Now it's a deck that I don't normally cover. I don't usually cover Buster Blader stuff, but especially ever since Tenpai dropped, I've been really feeling a want to test out Buster Blader and do some stuff with it. So I decided to build Runick Buster Blader. And then I saw that Buster Blader was being played at one of the European Opens, and I wanted to double down on making Runick Buster Blader. So I came to, after some cooking, I came to this deck, to this recipe, and I wanted to share it with you guys. It does have the Runick cards in it, so we'll kind of blast through those because they don't tend to change up at all. So we have the 2 Fountain, we have 3 Tip, three three Curses, 3 Flashing Fire, 3 Destruction, 3 Slumber, the 1 Dispelling, and the 1 Smiting Storm. Now the only one that we don't play is the Golden Droplet, which I don't think is a very good card. And typically I don't run Smiting Storm because I'm a fan of the 17 runic cards. But at least for this deck, you do need like the 18th name, like having the extra name specifically is like the big important part, at least in my opinion. For the Buster Blader cards themselves, we do play one of the OG. The OG being a pretty butt card in most senses, but you do definitely have to play at least one of him. And then Buster Blader, the Destruction Swordsman, he's a little better. When he destroys a monster by battle, you can equip it to him as an equip spell, and then once per turn, you can send an equip spell or a monster that's equipped to him as cost to destroy all monsters your opponent controls with the same type. So even if it's not a monster that you took from your opponent and equipped to it, like if it's one of the Destruction Sword monsters, you can hit them. So the Destruction Sword monsters, I think, are Machine, Spellcaster, and Dragon. So you can pop all of those that your opponent controls. Um, and the Dragon one's the important one for the most part, but also you almost never get those effects off because he's never on the field as Buster Blader. Almost always you use him as fusion material or synchro material or link material in some cases. Like you always use him as like discard fodder or material for the better cards. If it was a quick effect, it probably would be played. Probably would be played for the effect, but it's not a quick effect, unfortunately. For the other cards, you have 3 Buster Whelp, which is pretty important. He is the bread and butter, at least when it comes to a lot of the combos. He's super important. You can still combo even if you don't see him specifically, but it's way easier when you see him. I also play 2 Dragon Buster, the Destruction Sword, and 1 Robot Buster, the Destruction Sword. These are all of the, I call them the little bodies for Destruction Sword, just because they're either level 4 or below. But to go over it for him, so Buster Whelp doesn't have any effect when he's equipped, but you never equip him anyway. So on normal summon, for him, you get to add any Destruction Sword card from your deck to your hand. This includes monsters or spell traps, which is really big. And then while he's in the field, you contribute this card for cost to special summon a Buster Blader from your hand or from your graveyard, which is the only reason why we still have to play the OG Buster Blader, because he does not, the Destruction Sword one does not count as Buster Blader in your hand. He is just Buster Blader, comma the Destruction Swordsman. So he counts as a Buster Blader card, but not the Buster Blader. So you typically need him in the graveyard to resolve his effects, but you still have to play him because of the name, or because of the name. So that's why. And then while you control Buster Blader and have this card in the graveyard, you can discard a Destruction Sword card and special summon him from the graveyard. And then because he's a level 1 tuner, and both of the Buster Blader variants are level 7, you can kind of see where that would go. But Whelp is like the main thing to facilitate some of your combos. So you'll probably have recognized Dragon Buster if you play during the Union Hanger formats. Some of the earlier formats, this card was really notorious because it locks your opponent out of the extra deck. Specifically, it locks them out of special summoning monsters from the extra deck, which is one of the big outs to Buster Blader. Being able to make Underworld Goddess to get rid of the Buster Dragon or the Fusion is huge, and this locks them out of that. And then I'm playing Robot Buster because the floodgate for Robot Buster is that spawn trap cards that are already face up in the field cannot activate their effects. So this locks your opponent out of stuff like the 10 by field spell. It also locks them out of the post effects of things such as like all of the planet field spells can't activate their post effects, such as like pressure planet for Kashira can't pop a card when Shangri-La uses its effect. Likewise, stuff such as Branded Lost or Branded Regained can't activate their effects because this blocks it from happening. Same thing for like the adventure package, but the big one likewise stuff like Centurion cards when they're kind of trap cards, they can't activate their effects. Stand up Centurion can't use the effect. The Snake Eye field spell can't trigger on normal summon, etc., etc. So it's kind of why Robot Buster, at least in my opinion, is good in this format, and why I'm playing it at all. And then this locks them out of the extra deck, so like they're both pretty good, but one is clearly a little better than the other. This is also a level 1 tuner, which is like the big thing for it. I am playing Wizard, which is the third Buster Destruction Sword card. It is in the side deck though, because it locks them out of the graveyard, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. For the next cards, we do play the 2 Destruction Sword Memories, as well as 3 Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman. So Prologue is crazy. So I'll explain Prologue first, then I'll explain Memories because like they kind of go tandem, but it's important to understand Prologue before Memories. So Prologue, when you activate this card, you send for cost 1 Buster Blader card, which can be Destruction Swordsman or the original, and 1 Destruction Sword card, which means that you can send the Trap card or any of the other Destruction Sword cards, including the second Buster Blader or the Whelp or any of the things that can get attached. And then it has a secondary graveyard effect, which isn't super important in the realm of like what we need for here, but you can banish this card from the graveyard. And for that turn, Destruction Sword cards that you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. So it's a way to protect the fusion monsters, a way to protect the Whelp and all the other little things. The other trap, Destruction Sword Memories, is super good and important to know because of its graveyard effect, but its on-field effect is not very good. So its on-field effect is you can discard a Destruction Sword card, special summon 1 Buster Blader from your deck. Super useless, not what we care about, which is why we run 2 of it, but the graveyard effect is super important. You can banish this card from the graveyard as cost, and then fusion summon 1 Buster Blader, the Buster Blader fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the materials listed on it from the graveyard. So what you do is you activate Prologue, you send this plus the Buster Blader, and then because you're sending it for cost, you can chain link to this, and so that way you'll get both the Synchro and the Buster Blader fusion at the same time. Because Prologue special summons the Synchro monster, if I didn't say that. But that is all the Buster Blader main deck cards. So the last few cards of the deck are stuff that either goes tandem with it, or they're just power spells or things such as that. So we'll go over those now. Trap Trick, super important. So you activate this, banish Prologue, set Prologue, activate Prologue. Pretty simple. Prologue is the only trap that you're going to play, and the Trap Trick makes it really good. You could probably cut this down to 2, but I felt like playing 6 was kind of necessary because you wanted to maximize the chance of seeing Prologue, because Prologue is what facilitates your combos. Because you do have ways to get to the dragon monsters, sort of, without exactly having the babies, which does make you able to summon both in the same turn. From one, lets you be able to summon the Synchro and Buster Blader from just 1 Prologue, if that's the case. One of those other dragons is Justrudo. He is just a free level 7 Synchro monster if you have a non-tuner on board, and he's really important for that. He's also good discard fodder for things like Hugin and for the 1-for-1. Same thing with Buster Blader Destruction Swordsman. This card is great because of that, to be able to summon either the Buster Whelp or the Buster Destruction Swordsman, the Dragon Buster one. And then the last 3 cards in the main deck are 2 Tactics and 1 Snatch Steal. These are just power spells. This lets you get through Appaloosa, lets you get through Expertly Noir, as well as just so many other things that you can, as long as you can target it and steal it, it's good. And then same thing with Tactics. You're just basically forcing your opponent to have to activate effects for things like with Snatch Steal, and then Tactics to either do the same thing again. Likewise, the only reason why we do Snatch Steal over something like Change of Heart is because it affects Expertly Noir, and it's just better in some cases, in my opinion, because you get to permanently keep the card. So for the extra deck, we have the 2 Hugin. I wanted to bump this to 3, but I couldn't really find the space in the extra deck for it. Though I have been able to make it with 2. It's very like 2 is tight sometimes, and it does change your decision making, but I think 2 is just enough. 1 Munin, you do need the 1 level 3 sometimes, and the effect for getting life points does come up in times every once in a while. Gary is super important as a level 4. He also lets you recur your Runick Fountain to be able to keep drawing cards, as just well as being generally really good because of level 4 and a way to stall the game. And then same thing for Frecky. You do need level 5. Level 5 in the main combo is one of the things that's very important, or possibly very important, and I can show that in a little bit. But Frecky is very good, at least in my opinion, and being able to have the Banish 2 every once in a while, as well as the bring back a quick play from the graveyard on removal is pretty nice. Just having like in general, Frecky, at least for this variant, is pretty good. For the first Destruction Sword card, we have Protector Whelp of the Destruction Swordman. This card is really great because on summon it lets you send any Destruction Sword card from the deck to the graveyard, and then it also has a burn effect. So it's just like Munin, it is a way to play in time. As long as you have a way to get to your battle phase, you can burn your opponent for whatever Buster Blader attack you have in the field that hasn't attacked yet, which is pretty nice. And then you have the 2 Buster Dragon and the 2 Buster Blader fusion cards, the cards, the stuff that the namesakes for the deck. So Buster Dragon is pretty powerful in the form of a Synchro Monster. This allows you to special summon a Buster Blader from the graveyard once per turn. It is a soft once per turn. I did debate playing 3 because it is a soft once per turn, but I didn't think 3 doesn't really fit and there's not too many combos where having 3 is going to matter. As well as 2 of the Buster Blader fusion. I do think you need at least 2 of each, but you don't need to maximize on Buster Dragon, I think. So this card lets you special summon Buster Blader from the graveyard during your turn. During your opponent's turn, you can target a Buster Blader and equip it with a Destruction Swordman card in the graveyard. So basically the idea is that you revive a Buster Blader and then you can equip it with on your opponent's turn with the Destruction Sword cards, so the different Floodgate cards, and then while it's on the field, all your opponent's monsters become dragon, which is really big, leaning into the fusion. So the fusion, it has a bunch of blanket effects. So must be fusion summoned, cannot be special summoned in other ways. This card cannot attack directly. This card gains 1,000 attack and defense for each dragon monster your opponent controls, or is in their graveyard. Change all dragon type monsters on the field that your opponent controls to defense mode. Also, dragon type monsters in your opponent's possession cannot activate their effects. For this effect, it would also include cards like Phantasme that activate in hand, or cards such as Noctavision for the draw effect, or like Destrudo that activate in the graveyard. But Buster Dragon only changes field. So like he typically is like your opponent can activate things on the field, but dragon cards in general that they possess can't, which also includes hand and graveyard. And then if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing damage to your opponent. So even though it can't attack directly, if your opponent tries to put up any sort of defense, this card can just attack into defense mode monsters, and it will almost always have at least 3,800 attack, which is the big part about it. So it's the namesake of the deck. It's pretty good. It's the card that says no to a lot of your opponent's plays, which is why I wanted to test it. So the first Synchro monster is Martial Metal Marcher. So he's typically done with the level 1 guys plus Yugen, which you have like sort of a small combo to be able to go into both Buster Dragon and the Whelp because of this card. And I do play the 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon because being able to make that extra level 7 is pretty big, especially because if you play if you play Destrudo, and then because he's level 3, you're able to synchro with Gary to go into Ancient Fairy Dragon. So this way, if you do have any extra level 1s, or if he gets negated, then being able to do this, especially summon the level 1, make Buster Dragon, at least is usually enough to do something against your opponent, depending on what they're playing. 1 Black Rose Dragon, again because you can because you can make that with Destrudo is very important, but also because you can you make it with Metal Marcher, and getting up to level 7 isn't super hard in this deck at all, which is why I play for the board wipe. And then it's also a dragon, so you can, if you wanted to, wipe the board and then use something like Destruction Sword Memories to banish it and Buster Blader for the fusion, and then one hot red. Buster Dragon is level 8, and then plus any level 1 fusion level 1 tuner monster with it lets you make hot red. Uh, there's convoluted ways to get to this on turn 1, but most of the time I just make hot red on turn 2. Um, when I'm skipping my battle phase, like if I go first on and I have my second turn, I tend to make this, and then if because like typically you always survive turn 1 because of the way that the stun lock works, and then after you have this, because of the way the stun lock works, you always have the tuner equipped to Buster Blader, which lets you summon it and do a whole bunch of other plays usually. And then the 1 SP is the last extra deck card. So there's a lot of versatility to the deck, which is why you play such a weird amount of like fusions and synchros. But which is why I like it. And then I do have a side deck for this build. It's not super impactful, except for a few cards, but most of it's just meta choices for my locals. But I'll go over some of them. So Wizard is really important because it is the card you side in for like any tournaments or like Phantom Knights or things such as that. I also tend to side it in going first against Snake Eye because it does lock out your opponent's graveyard, and because of all the graveyard effects that Snake Eye has and things such as. Wizard's pretty good when it comes to that. So his floodgate effect is specifically your opponent can activate cards that activate the graveyard. This includes cards that are spells or traps. So it just locks your opponent out of the graveyard, which is really good. For the other cards, we play 3 Drawn Lockbird, 2 Ghost Ogre, and 2 Nibiru. I side in some hand traps. I know I'm playing Runick, and Runick playing hand traps tends to be frowned upon, but just because like the consistency ends up getting weird for both hand traps and Runick. But having these hand traps specifically, I think, are the best. Like Droll locks your opponent out of adding cards, or locks both players out of adding cards. But because you draw, like it's because you can draw cards, it conflicts a little bit, so it's a little weird. But Ghost Ogre I think is very important as well, especially against certain combo decks. And then Nibiru is crazy, especially against cards like Snake Eye. I was thinking about maybe cutting Nibiru, but because of the way that Melodious is, because the issue is Melodious will force you to have to nib before they get to Apo, and then most decks that play Melodious will then just combo off afterwards, which is both frustrating and irritating. But I made most of the side deck pre-Melodious. If I was to change this up now, I would probably put in I would think about putting in Soul Release, because of targeting 5 in the grave against Snake Eye is pretty good. And then I haven't had a problem with I haven't really had a problem with most of the Melodious stuff in this, and like realistically you have enough ways to out Apo in the main deck, so it's not really that important. Double Cyclone usually for like the Runick mirrors, or for Labyrinth, because you want to get rid of their big welcomes like as soon as possible. So like when if they activate big welcome on board, you can just banish it. It also allows you to be a chain wall against like Lady Lab. 2-dimensional barrier just works super well against Tenpai, and works really well against Branded and Chimera and different decks like that. And then I do play the 3 evenly matched for a lot of decks, but because most decks don't have Omni Gates, evenly matched has become really nice, because they do try to make like really nice boards, and then evenly matched can just tear them apart and dismantle them at the cost of my battle phase. But I'm Runick, so the battle phase typically isn't that important. And then like because I'm Buster Blader, like yeah, the battle phase can be important, but realistically, the idea is that like I floodgate my opponent, I control stuff with Runick, and then I get to one battle phase where my Buster Blader with probably like 6k attacks a defensive monster, or I just skip my or I just go battle phase, end battle phase, burn for 60 for like 30-48, and then do it again on my next turn if I have a battle phase. Like as long as I get to 1 or 2 battle phases with the way that I can burn with the whelp, or gain with mutant, I just will always have some sort of advantage with that. Also because I'm the only one that would be able to attack because of that. But yeah, so that's the deck. Thank you guys so much for watching. As you can see on the screen here, there is a invite link in the description for my Discord channel. I do have a Discord channel for our server for the channel, and then as well I have the Gemtech code in the bottom left. I do I do personally love Gemtech stuff. Right now, I just got my um, Mystery Machine Vixen, which I can show off on stream now. Um, I got my Vixen machine. I do very much love the way that Gemtech has their stuff. They've also upped their box quality for their shipping stuff. So yeah, please check them out. You can use the code TeddyFurry10 for 10% off your purchase, which is no small puppies when you're paying $60 for a deck box. But they are super premium and they're very great limited time stuff. So go ahead, check them out, and have a great day. Peace.